Before we start today, there's something you need to do. There's a conference coming up March 30th to April 2nd, and it's being run by the CHFA, the Canadian Health Food Association. If you are a member and you haven't signed up to attend the show yet, you should definitely do that. CHFA hosts CHFA Now. It's Canada's largest conference and trade show dedicated to all things natural, organic, and wellness. The show's in Vancouver. There'll be lots of retailers there. If you're a brand, you should definitely sign up. This will be a great place to find new partners and to be able to get some deals done. Head to chfanow.ca/Vancouver to find out more.
Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
I find my cord. Honestly.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
how are you?
How are you?
Good. Really good.
All good in the hood.
It's so nice to meet you.
You too.
I love the books in the background.
Oh, I have plenty. I am a ferocious reader. I love learning about whatever I need to learn about in the moment that I need to learn about it.
Oh, I love it. I love
That's
it.
awesome.
What are you reading right now?
I am reading actually Leadership Toolbox. Charney, I forget. CY. Yeah, I have his book.
Yeah.
Leadership, because I level 50. Usually I use my age as a level myself. So it's all about leadership skills as I launch the store, and then I think about leaving my job, my day job, to go full time. And so, yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
That's a big old
This
boy.
is very interesting.
Oh my.
Wow. But yeah, I hear you. We're big readers. We read a lot. And then I'm sitting downstairs, but my library upstairs is, again, it's like that. It's full of books, and
Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think recipes was my big thing when I was younger, and recipe collecting all the recipe books, and then
Really?
gluten-free, trying to
Yeah.
find all the gluten-free was crazy. And then I just created my own gluten-free cookbook. But because I study too, I'm studying for a nutritional consultant. So most of
Okay.
these are my study books. Yeah,
Got it.
You got a lot
Got
of
it.
stuff going on, eh?
I
Yeah,
do a lot.
you got stuff going
Yeah,
on.
like you got a lot of
That's
stuff going on.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow. I'll
Alrighty.
do an intro, and then we can get into it. Otherwise, I feel like we're at that point where I ask you another question, we're gone, and then
it's gonna lead to stuff.
listeners will be
Yes.
like, "Hello, what?"
Like,
Yeah.
who are you?
Okay, so we have Marsha. Is it Hebert?
Marsha Hebert,
Hebert.
Hebert, because yeah, if
Hebert.
you want
Got
to
it.
speak French, but it's
Marsha
Hebert.
Hebert, and she's a bunch of things. You're a solopreneur coach. You're a cookbook
Yes.
author. You're a
Yes.
speaker. You're a speaker. I combine the two because I'm looking at your LinkedIn. You're a speaker and you're a
Yeah.
Canva lover. So am I.
Yes.
We can have that moment as well because I am a huge fan of Canva. And then how we connected is because you run a store called Eat for Life by Marsha.
Yeah.
And that was something that that we connected on because we have been focused on trying to get retailers in on the show because we know listeners want to hear from retailers. We think retailers have a lot to say, so we're trying to give them a platform for that as well. So welcome to the show. Quite excited to have you on.
Yeah.
The kind of next 45 minutes is yours. And then we'd love to hear about like your journey to how you got here. And then obviously we're going to spend some time on the store, but there seems,
I'm curious to see what the hell you're doing. You got a lot of stuff
listen,
going on. I want to know where you started from.
I feel like already you might be the only person I know that says Canva lover on the top of their thing, but I feel like we could just talk about Canva for the next 45 minutes and that would be okay with me. But anyway, so
That's
I
just
will
fun.
I will shut up now and let you tell us about your journey.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you're gonna let me run with it.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Go.
yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are so right. There's so many things going on in my life. Especially I just turned 50. There's gonna be a lot more going on. And I have a 31-year-old daughter who is intellectual disability. And I often, one time she came to me and said, Mom, am I disabled? Is something wrong with me? I was like, babe, nothing is wrong with you. I go, if anyone call you any able, like disability, it's just you trying to fit in someone else's ability. That's is disability. So you
Right.
are just fine the way God made you. And so that was something that I had to tell her. It was like, just do you, just do you. Uh, Um, so anyway, so started on my journey, I came to Canada when I was 12 years old in 1985. Talk about culture shock, and it was nothing to do with the color, but a lot to do with the culture. And growing up in Jamaica, we have quite a vibrant culture, and our culture is made up of all kinds of cultural people. Polish, German, Asian, you name it. And so growing up as a God-fearing person as well, it was something to me. There were just people, my uncle was Caucasian, my cousin was Asian. It didn't matter to me. It was just people having fun and the culture. And then when I came here in 1985, I tell it the God Almighty truth, I did not know what prejudice was until someone called me a Negro. I was just like, and then I went home to my dad and I was like, prejudice, word prejudice. And then he explained to me, but a whole bunch of requirements that I needed. And he said, oh, prejudice is this when people call people's name. And I was just shocked. I was shocked. And then he said, you need to be 110%, whatever you do, in order to get picked. And
Right.
that was my training when I came here. So everything I did from thus had to be 200, had to be more than the average person, more than even I could do myself. And so the books I had to learn a lot and learn it fast. So so we came here in grade six. My
Where did you
dad
go? Where did you
was
come to? Where did you come to Canada? Just what part?
From Jamaica to
To
Canada, from
where though in
Calgary,
Canada? Calgary.
Winnipeg,
So you
Winnipeg.
Calgary, Winnipeg.
Yeah,
Okay.
Winterpeg. And I
Winterpeg and
love
then Calgary.
Win
Wow.
and then Calgary. So I
Okay.
spent
Okay.
11 years in Winnipeg. I spent my stepmom Portuguese. It was so funny because my dad was married to my stepmom at the time, and she came to Jamaica to meet my real mom, my Jamaican mom,
Right.
because it was kind of like a hands off. It was like a trans it was and I have a twin sister. So both of us, my mom was like, okay, my stepmom, she wanted to meet my real mom just to let her know, the kids are going to be in good care and it's all good. So Natalia, my stepmom, she became my second mom. She's more my mother than my
Right.
biological mother because we didn't have that kind of communication. And so then when my dad, so when we came here and my dad broke up with our stepmom, she never left us. So if a few years later, my dad divorced, it was terrific. It was horrible. My dad, all we knew, the mother we knew was my Portuguese stepmom. And then my dad just one day came and just already got in a house, already transitioned us from a two-story to a bungalow. And then he said, we're leaving. I was like, leaving? Where are we leaving? And we're moving. And that was the most horrific, traumatized, way worse than somebody calling me a Negro. Like just the N-word. I don't even know what to say about that. Because then he just moved us into another home. And then her stepmom was gone. We phoned her, we're crying, we couldn't give her where we live. But Winnipeg was such a big community of Portuguese people. My mom, she found us. It was every birthday, every Christmas, she was there.
That's
She was
awesome.
knocking out. It
That's
was
amazing.
amazing.
That's awesome.
It was life-giving. I really just I like anything I go to her, I cry, I bawl. She's like, it's gonna be okay. She's always made me feel like everything is good.
No, she's
Don't
mom.
matter. She's
She's
like
mom.
and it was really cool.
That's awesome.
So growing up with her, and then I was when I was 18, I had my child at 18. It was kind of like a plan, but not quite planned. Because I was thinking, I'm a planner. I'm a big planner. I visualize, I see things. Nothing stopped me. It doesn't matter. Yay, no, it doesn't matter. If it's not there, I'm gonna blaze a trail, as I did with my gluten-free store. But then we end up in our foster home, because at the time when I was living with my dad, when he moved us out from our Portuguese mom, and we end up in a foster home. Good thing our community in Winnipeg too is very religious. Like, we have a lot of Christian community. We belong to a lot of Christian community. So that was interesting. And then I left at 17 years old. I've always been a frugal person, and my twin sister, not so much a street smart. I have always been the street smart. And then while we were going to high school, like I said to her, I will quit school. I will work. You just finish your high school and I will pay our way. So that was the deal. But nobody listens to me. Nobody listens to me. So I was like, okay. So I'm working at this restaurant, this buffet restaurant, doing super well. And then my sister, I said, look, just stay in school and I'll take care of this. That didn't happen. So she didn't finish. She didn't finish her. She finished high school. I left high school. Then I met. That's where I met my daughter's her father. Was at
Right.
the restaurant that I worked, and he was already dating someone. But I am so determined. Whatever I want, I'm going to get. And I was made sure every day when I go to work, I looked really well. And then I asked him, I said, "Is that your girlfriend?" And he said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh," but I wasn't ready yet to give up. And then I was like, "Okay, fine." And then one day he told me he broke up with her, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna swoop in now and try to win him over." And he was 5 years older than me. I was like about to turn 18 at the time.
Right.
Um, and anyway, I won him over. Lo and behold, to my not knowing this, he was an abuser, like a violence, abusive man. Got into the relationship with him and ended up went pregnant. I was happy to be pregnant because I wanted to have my child early. I had planned that when I was in my 50, I would still look like I'm in my 30s, and I would have lots of grandbabies and still be okay to take care of them. So then I ended up pregnant and end up with him, and it was almost 10 years of abusive relationship. My church didn't understand that back then nobody talked about domestic
No.
violence. Nobody could help you. And being a person of color in 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 Canada, in Winnipeg, what I came to understand is like all these what do you call stigma or things that they put against you. Your color, you're young, you're a single, you're gonna be a single mother, you're poor, all these things. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be in poverty. I don't want to be a single mother. I don't. And so I end up staying in a relationship for a very long time. And so my daughter born with her intellectual disability, it need like 48 hours to parent her. I was just alone in all of it, working full time because I'm just a strong person. I can't give up. I'm like, I just can't believe this is what God saved me for. I just can't believe it. So I just never give up. Never. There's always a silver lining. There's always an answer. There's always a solution. And I just kept going. Oh, I need to be smarter. I need to think wiser. And anything I need to do, you can always find me at the library before the internet. I was always researching it. If I wasn't a good cook, I better learn to be a better cook. If I wasn't good in bed, I better learn to be good in bed. If I wasn't a good parent, I better learn. I was listening to programs, I was reading books, and I just fast tracked myself to be able to be independent and learn quickly. But meanwhile, it's just the abuse even at work, like when I found my job that but anyway, to say that part, I got into a relationship with my first, that's my daughter's father, and that was quite abusive. And I talked to my pastor about it; they couldn't do anything. And then I talked to my dad about it. Like I'm a talker. Like I'm not shy. I will tell you things are not so well. I will tell you. I will read about it in the best way to tell you that you're able to comprehend it and you're able to do something about it. And so when I talked to my dad about it and I told him, and he didn't do anything either. And then because of their belief, they have like most people that I'm around, my family or friends, they want all the greatness, but there's this negative side of oh, don't do this or don't do that. There's a fear. It's all these fear that sometimes are so subtle. They think you're not fearful, but it's there. And so then I finally got the sense to leave that relationship when my daughter was 11 years old. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I thought I was going to die. I thought this is like first time making a huge decision like that because you know what we've been trained is like, you know, you're a black woman, you're going to be hard for you to find a job. People are going to judge you. You have to have money. You have to have this. You have to look this way. You have to be this way. So because of all that conditioning, took a long time for me to leave that relationship. And I have no problem. I got skills. Like I was not scared of anything. When people talk about number one fear of speaking, number one fear is speaking. It's like, nah, that's easy. I have no problem. I'm not trying to be the first one to raise my hand. I'm not trying to do the hard work. If anything, people get tired of me. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Oh no, it's Marsha again. So I was like trying to find why was I staying in something that and I was the one doing all the work anyway. And you know, most of it was just didn't have a lot of empowering woman or mentor or people to say, you know, instead of just saying, I'll pray for you, like your prayers, I know God, I'll pray for myself. I need resources. That's what I need. I need resources to get the hell out of here. And it was just
You need a real library, really.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the same way that you go to the library, what you needed was
Yeah.
library
exactly,
resources, right? Like,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my thing. So then I just left and then I cried. I was lost. I didn't know what to do, but I was determined to make it with my daughter. And then once I left, and I was working too because I when I left, because I had quit school. If you remember back, I was
Right.
telling you where I quit school. So then I remember my high school teacher, Mr. Dorcott, was saying that, you know, if you want to make something of yourself, ladies, you got to get with the government and you got to get into administrative. And I made sure after I went and do my GED and I wanted to get into the administrative like super fast program because I get bored really easy. I learn really fast. And I thought, okay, let's expedite this. I don't have 2 years. And so I took the 1 year, like they call it baccalaureate, kind of like a advanced program. And
Yeah.
even then I was bored. And so I took the program and I was always ahead of my class. Like, oh, I just have to wait for them. Wait, wait, wait. And again, my teacher is like, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. And for everything they give me, I would debate it to the T. You know, like I wanted 100%. You know, and she gave me my spelling test. It was like 99%. I'm like, oh man, I remember the word I got wrong. Accommodation. I think I missed an M. That was my 1%. I could have made 100% in my spelling, but I was always ahead of the class, and I had to hold back, and then I just kind of dumb myself down, and I kind of procrastinate. And I think that's where my procrastination start is because you come to this country and they tell you got to get put back your grade. And I'm so glad. One thing I'm very glad for my dad is that he fought for us not to be held back. And that was something that I was very proud of him for doing. And then as I get into school and work, I again finding myself dumbing myself down because of the environment and what people thought about you. And if you're this much or that much, you were too much. And growing up with my Portuguese family, we were too much of everything. We were like talking with our hands and we were shouting, and everybody was talking on top of each other. But as a Black person, I couldn't do that. I was just like, I want to go home to my mom. I couldn't do that when I get out in the public because they would say things like, oh, you know, Black angry woman, or, oh, is that what they do in Jamaica? I'm like, I don't even know. I didn't grow up in Jamaica. I grew up in Portuguese mom. So it just became, talk about traumatized, trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And for me, it's always like, I believe in my heart so much about who God is and the love that he is, and everyone deserves love and nobody needs to be shamed. And I'm just a human being, you know, wanting to make it in a world where everyone could be super happy and joyful. And so I always looked at it that way. I never looked at it like you're a Black person or you're this person, because my family is very mixed. I have so many different diversity in my family. Like I have the
Hmm.
worlds in my
Right.
family. So it just became something that I never even think about. And I don't want to think about it because I often think, like they said, And you think about it, then you see all the bad stuff, and then it just makes you so angry and upset, and like, oh my God, why? I need to do all this because somebody don't like me, or, it just becomes too much. So I just try not to think about it that way. So so then when I was in school, and then my teacher now, again, I'm a planner. I look far ahead of the game. And so we have to do practicum. We have to do like a 1 week practicum. And my teacher, she said, okay, Marsha, pick from the list, and I'm like, oh, I don't see the Manitoba Public Insurance on the list. Because I remember my high school teacher, you want to make money, you gotta work for the government. And I'm like, oh, Manitoba Public Insurance is not on the list. She's like, Marsha, you have to pick from the list. And I'm like, I have to. Don't tell me I have to too. And so I phoned, this is me at 19. I phoned the Manitoba Public Insurance HR department. And I don't know where I get all this guts from. All I know is that where I want to be, that's where I want to be. And there was no too hard, too easy, la la la. I was gonna get there. And so I phoned the HR department and I said, hi, my name is so and so. I'm calling from, our college is doing a practicum. And are you guys interested in, having practicums too? And they said, yes. And then I went back to my teacher.
So you made your own co-op,
So
basically.
you did your own thing.
I did.
Good for you.
I see a pattern here.
Yeah,
Yes,
I can see where this is all gonna go. Now you know why she can handle 5,000 things.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
We're getting the picture.
I'm getting it. Yeah.
And so
That's
then
cool.
I got in, and I got in, and I was working with Rita Fenari. I have to say that she's a talent, she's beautiful, and she was like a mentor to me. And I remember I got in there, and I was doing really good work and everything. And I see the same level again, where you have to do 110, 200% just to be recognized. Not only you about being a woman, but you're Black, you're young, and what they consider pretty, because then I was harassed by the male. Like everywhere I go, I was harassed by the male counterparts, and the female counterparts didn't like me because either I looked too pretty to them or too smart to them. And I was just like, oh God, give me a break, Lord Jesus, and just give me a break. And so I got in there, and then it was like, she's like, Marsha, you're doing well. You're really over initiative. You got to slow your initiative down. And I'm like, oh Lord, here it comes. Now I'm going to dumb myself down again. But she was super nice and super like strategic to me. And she said, okay, so you don't have your GED, you don't have your grade 12. In order to hire you full time for the government, you have to have your grade 12. So she said, go to school at night and go get your GED. So basically, that's what I did. I went to the library, pick up this big book, flipped through it, and went to get my GED. That was it. Just got my GED. And then I moved after 4 years of working for the Manitoba Public Insurance. And I was with my husband at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to Calgary in 1997. And I love my job. And again, the same issue happened at my job. I'm like, go get her. I'm like, I never called in sick, even though I have to take care of my daughter and do everything. I'm very good at my job, very fast at my job, get my job done. But yet I got no promotion because somebody at the higher level or somebody was like, no, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And then I moved to Calgary because my husband at the time, and my daughter's dad, he said, like if anything, he would move to Calgary. My twin sister had moved to Calgary. And I basically saved my money. I took my pension from my Manitoba Public Insurance. I said, okay. I went with a friend because she wanted to move as well. And I said, okay, we drove to Calgary. I planned it all. I got my daughter. I said to my hubby, you stay here. I'm going to go to Calgary. I knew nothing about Calgary. It was the first time I came, but I planned it before I came to Calgary.
Well, you'd already been to Winnipeg, so...
Exactly. And
I
was,
yeah.
Well, it's a little bit different because where I was learning to speak French, now I lost my French because in Calgary they don't have that bilingual thing.
Not Calgary.
I was shocked. I was like, what? This is Canada. Why you don't have bilingual? No. And I learned, no, not every province does. So when I came to Calgary, we drove, and I knew that I had to get like in the temp, because the fastest way to get a job is through the temp agency. Mm-hmm. And because I was like a Jill of all trades kind of thing. And so I did. I took my money, we got an apartment, and then my hubby came. And then when he came to Calgary, that's when all the physical started. I was like, I was working full time. He was, I don't know, I think he struggled a lot with being, he's mixed male, black and white, being with all the judgment and not knowing how to deal with his own turmoil. I call it turmoil. And then it just became like he was just I remember going home every Friday. I would get migraine. I was like, why am I getting a migraine? Because I have to spend a whole weekend with them, and I knew I was just going to get hit upside the head or something was going to happen to me. And I was just like, oh my word. And I had to keep good for my daughter because being, person with special needs, she could not see me down because it just would not help her emotionally. And then I started my business when I was working. First I started an organizing business because I'm always thinking of a way because I've experienced where someone could just like fire you, like you have no choice, and then try to find a job would be the hardest thing because again, they hear your voice, they see your resume, and then when you go in for the interview, oh, you're black, and I'm like, right? I don't play that game with people like that. So I'm always making sure I have a backup plan. So I'm very entrepreneurial minded. And then I started the organizing business while I was working full time as an office manager. And then I remember when Canadian Living Magazine called me to do an interview, I had to arrange it around my lunch hour so I could do the interview. And I would take weekends and go do trade shows. And I would do the evenings where I would do my consulting while I was working full time, while I was taking care of my daughter, while
Wow.
my ex-hubby was beating me. And nobody knew anything. And one day I ended up at work with like a cast on my leg with some, and they're like, what happened? And I go, up into the door. But I still showed up at work.
Wow.
Um, and so then it just became, as I got older, because I was always, as I got older, I thought, oh man, I'm turning 30. I want to do this. I always use my age as a way to advance myself. And then I've always been a business. I love business. I love business, love business, love business. And I was trying to find a way to start my own business, but never got the courage to really do it full time. And then with the pandemic and everything, I know I fast forward a lot, but I'm leaving some room
No,
for you
that's
guys to
okay.
ask me
Yeah.
questions.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I fast forward to where I was working at Devon. I was working and I learned a lot from Devon. I think I really matured when I was working with Devon. I love the corporateness. I love the organization. I love where they provide help. I love the wellness. That's how I learned how to take better care of my body because we had like a wellness. You could go to the gym and everything. And then I learned just to take better care because at the time I was my health. And most Black women, I'm gonna say, we are. If you hear us tired, it's not because of 10 hours of work. It's probably like a year of work, and we need a break, like nonstop.
Right.
And so then it became. I love muscles. I love taking care. I love being healthy, and this gluten-free thing. I didn't really understood it until like I always. And this is can tell you the part yet. All this was while I was suffering from gluten issues and did not know I had a
Mm.
gluten intolerance. And all I know is that every night I would go to bed, it was just severe pain, like someone stabbing me in the gut. I was just double over, and that's how I would sleep all the time. And I would just be rid with anxiety and acne under the skin and everything. And then I heard Dr. Oz when I was in my 30s was talking about symptoms, and I was like, this is interesting. And then he talked about gluten. I'm like, oh, what is gluten? And then he talks about what you need to avoid to learn if you have gluten. And so I avoided all the breads because that's something
Right.
that coming from Jamaica, bread and butter
Hmm.
at night is like a big thing. Bread and butter in the
Oh,
morning is a big
listen,
thing.
Italian
That's
over
all
there
good.
and Chinese over here.
Yeah, we're
So,
all over it. All
you
over it.
know, yeah, nothing but carbs here,
Bread
right?
and
Like,
butter is just like, yeah, you can't get enough of
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
So then it just became, and then I learned about it, and then I said, okay, wow. And then I let that go. But then I was angry. I was like, well, what am I gonna eat? Like, what is this going on? And then and then I knew I was anemic because before I came to Canada, I knew I was anemic and always just fatigue and everything.
Right.
And then I learned that's part of a celiac, is anemia, all these hosts of things. Then I just started, you know what, let me learn a little bit again with my learning. Let me just learn a little bit more about this. And that's how I end up taking my nutrition class to understand about the foods that we put in our bodies and everything. And then I just made a vow. I was like, when I was working at Devon, I was like, no, that's it. I'm going to write my own cookbook. And when I talk to people, I always look at you like you're crazy. They're like, oh, yeah, ugh. And I just like, you know what? I don't need your permission. I'm just going to do whatever comes in my mind because I do trust it. And then I start writing my cookbook. Every morning I would get up, there's a new recipe, and I wanted nutrients in my body because I wanted to be energetic. So then I start using a lot of seeds and nuts and wholesome foods just to make cookies and cakes, and the people weren't really doing that. A lot of the gluten-free products were just taking products, making them gluten-free, but not like friendly for people who can't afford certain ingredients. Or I want it to be where it's like you go to the grocery store and it's there. And that's, for me, that's what it was. It was like, I'm going to the grocery store, what can I, use? Oh, they have peanuts, it's cheap. They have sesame seeds, it's cheap. They have, all these like carrots and things that I could use, the dry foods that I could use to make healthy foods. And that's what I started doing. And then I finished my book. I remember Hunker Down. I remember calling for my book because this was the first book I did. Um, and I remember I had to call to find out about somebody photography. And it's like $3,000. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have $3,000. And I called
So
to
you went
find
to the
out about,
library.
oh yeah, I went to the library. I went to the internet. And then I had to learn food photography. I went to YouTube was my school. I was like, oh, I was drinking that up like milk, cold milk and ice.
And we'll be right back. Hey, Kenny.
Billy Boy, what's going on?
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
My boy's coming home in a couple of weeks, and he's deathly allergic to peanuts. Every time that he comes home, the wife throws out my peanut butter. Doesn't matter how much I've eaten, how much I love it, how much I rely on it in my diet. She just throws it out because she's afraid of, the boy
Right.
having to go to the hospital.
I'm going to say it's a tad aggressive. Just keep that to yourself.
I'm telling Kathy you said that.
Don't say a word.
But
aggressive.
So here's my question for you is, where do I go to find someone who makes either a nut or a seed butter that I can have that's not peanut?
Are you kidding me, Phil? They're from your province. They're out of Brantford. Local Canadian company. They produce.
Who are you talking about, Kenny?
Nuts to You nut butter.
Nuts to You nut
They're
butter.
everywhere.
Yeah.
They've got distribution everywhere. They're from your part of the world. These guys are
They're
awesome,
from
man.
Brantford, Ontario.
Pumpkin
You're right.
seed butter,
right.
Sunflower butters, almond butters.
Yeah.
Almond
Almond hazelnuts, cashew butter.
Cashews. Now, again, I don't know what nuts he's allergic to, but there's definitely alternatives.
No,
and
I
still
got
tell you what I
choices here.
do, and still ditch. Just go grab your peanut butter, but just keep your mouth shut and just sort of hide it. Maybe leave it in the car or somewhere so the Kathy doesn't get to it and ends up in the garbage.
I know.
A little aggressive.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll go to Mark Sterling's house and hide it in his cupboards until my boy goes home.
That's a little bit of a hike, eh?
But I'll look it up.
Seriously, they're everywhere, and you're gonna love them, Phil. Ontario, obviously Canadian, organic, super environmentally friendly, glass bottles, all recycled and recyclable, metal lids. Like, they do everything right.
Yeah, it's
Great
really beautiful.
Company.
Yeah, it's
Great
good
company.
stuff. Nuts
Enjoy, baby.
to you.ca.
And I learned all about food photography. So I took my own food pictures. All these pictures are me. I even used my cell phone to take these pictures of me. And then I learned about like self-publishing. So I went to the Canadian self-publishing and I got my own ISBN under my name. I just couldn't afford, I really could use help, but I just couldn't afford help.
Right.
And so I learned everything I need to do to self-publish, to take food photography, to do my script on my book, layout, everything. I did it just by looking at others. I'm a very visual person. I'm like, oh, if they're there, I can be there too. And so I would scout out any local people, like any cookbooks that were local, to learn, hey, if they got a cookbook, I can get a cookbook too. Hey, who did they get that printed for? So I would actually purchase things to see the resources they're using if I couldn't take a picture at the time, and just to follow it, just follow the trail. And
Yeah.
that's how I hunkered down for about a week, 1 week, my hoodie on my head, and I just deep dive right in, finished the book in 1 week, and sold over 300 copies in my own promo and my own marketing.
Good for
Wow.
you.
And that's how I started
Good
last
for you.
20, yeah. And
Good
then
for
I
Wait,
did
sorry.
that.
So when did the book come out?
The book was 2020, it came out.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then November, I think it was
2020.
2020, yeah, 2021, we did a pitch,
Mm-hmm.
a BPA pitch. I heard about it through at the time the Canadian Women in Food and being on the internet. And I applied for it and actually won the pitch, the $10,000. And that went by really fast. But it was so funny because the lady that was doing her judging, the Sobeys lady, she said, I have a feeling, Marsha, that no matter whether we help you or not, you're going to blaze it on your own. I go, yeah. Whether
You're
you're
right.
there for
You're
me or
right.
not, I'm not waiting for you. I'm going to do it with or without you. And that's what I even tell my exes when they're trying to keep me down. And, like some of them get I don't know why I'm into a lot of narcissistic men. I don't know why I seem to make those, but I'm always trying to find a leadership. But I find that the males that have the leadership skills tend to be quite narcissistic. And that's how I learned the hard way. So anyway, usually my exes are always, I have to go, they take me everywhere. I couldn't go anywhere by myself. I have to do this, and they control the money. It's just they have the money. It's the
Hmm.
money thing. It's like, okay, so I make more money than you. I'm like, why? Why do you need to be so mean? Am I being mean to you? I'm giving you all you can. I'm being there for you. I'm supporting you. Plus, on top of what I do. And then it just became something of like, no. And so, yeah, so most of their thing is to control me. And I was like, no. So I leave. So I just like, you know what? With or without you, I'm going to survive.
Right.
If I made it this far without you, I'm going to make it even further. So that's what I tell people, with or without you, I'm going to get by just fine.
So wait,
So yeah, so
go
then,
back. So sorry, because you're pulling on some interesting threads. So the book, you write the book,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
so where does because you write the book, but you also so when do you, because the other bits, right? Like, so when do you start the store? When do
You're
you?
doing all this, so
Online
you're
store
writing
stuff.
everything. So
Yeah,
you're writing the
Yes,
book while
yeah.
you're in administration pretty much your whole life, administration,
yes,
HR, and you're writing the
yes,
book at this time. So you
yes,
publish this book in
Yeah.
2020. And
yes.
then what is the time gap between publication to where Phil's going? And like, how do you get to a store?
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
it was hard
it
enough to get to writing a cookbook. I mean, people, there's a lot of
Nah, it's
silhouettes.
super cool. Like
Nobody's
all
running
of it's
around just
super
doing
cool, but
cookbooks. I mean,
holy cow.
that's pretty cool on
so
its own. But then how do you get to retail?
Yeah.
So retail, so okay, so I knew I have to have my ISBN in order to get into any stores.
Yeah.
So while I was working full time, writing my book, doing my online, I did my online store before I did the brick and mortar, the gluten-free pantry. And then I researched from a stalker. I'm a stalker, everything good. So I researched where all the bookstores, what I need to do to get it into
Mm-hmm.
the bookstore. I
Right.
made sure my profile, everything was set to go. And then I just called people up. I was like, hello, I have a cookbook that is gluten free that you will not find in your store, or it's a Canadian. And so then, yeah, then I said I would consignment. I would send my books on consignment.
Right.
And then most of my sales came from my online store as well, because I was doing a lot of social media. That's
So
why
so
I
you
love
started a
Canva.
store originally
But
for
your
the
online
book.
store is a gluten-free like food
It's a
store?
gluten-free food. Yes, it's online. So I would go to, so the trick is,
Oh,
here's the thing.
that's
So
interesting.
I know what I wanted, and I did not have enough money, because they'll say in order for you to buy bulk, well, you have to spend $2,000 to get all the foods.
Yeah,
I'm like,
easy, if
Right.
not more.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have 2,000. So I would
yeah.
go to like Winners or Home Sense, anywhere I see any gluten-free products, I would purchase it and take pictures of it, put it online. And because I knew where to get the product, so when people purchase it, I would go get the
But
product and ship it to them. Because at the time I could not afford your $500 minimum fee or your
So you're
$2,000.
reselling from
I'm
stores.
reselling
yeah,
from stores. Exactly. And then I had to do my own website and my own social media using Canva. And I just love Canva, because doing my book, I also set up my book in Canva as well. And that was before Canva came out with all the pages. Before, you had to split
yeah,
the book because they only had so many pages.
But help me, Marsha.
yeah.
So what's the motivation though? I understand you're celiac.
Yeah,
I
the
get
book.
so the book
Yeah.
starts, you write the book, etc. But
Yes.
why like could you not
Right.
find gluten free? Like why an online store? Like why go into retail?
Yes, it was like I was like, no. First of all, I did not have means of vehicle to drive around the city just to get all my gluten-free products. Like you go to a grocery store, you pick up your items, you're done. You go home, you cook, you eat. Not for us, the gluten-free folks, because they only have a little shelf, a little this, and they're also got contract with big gluten-free
Yeah.
suppliers.
Right.
So you're limited to what they give you
Right.
in the store. So
Right.
then I had to, most of the time I'm eating like vegetables or fruits, and I wanted to create stuff. I wanted to be easy for people to grab stuff and go. And so then it became was like, okay, no, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm not going around doing this anymore. And so that's when the store opened was in, recently, because I just blurted out in social media. I just got fed up and I said, that's it. No more. No more will you ask this question. Is this gluten free? And then 2 months later, we opened our gluten-free pantry because Google was saying, Google, my profile was saying over 6,000 visitors wanted brick and mortar. They were looking for a brick and
They
mortar.
wanted to physically
Instead,
visit a
they
store.
wanted to, instead of just online, which is
Right.
so much easier. But it was, I was like, okay. So then we opened our store and we have like people actually, there's more people coming to the store than there's more people online.
No,
So I'm
but
not
that makes
sure.
sense though, right?
That makes
Because
sense though.
there's definitely there are some things that you want online,
Yes,
but then you know, like we're still physical people, right? So there are still things
yes,
that I need to read the label for. I need to know
You
that the
want to talk
product
to
is built
somebody, you want to know
right,
what
you
it
know.
is.
Yeah.
yes,
And
exactly.
then
I think
you're
like
there,
talking to
right? Like
somebody.
you're
Yes,
there and you're not,
yes,
you know, so
yes,
it's you know, it's
It makes
better to talk
sense.
to you in person than it is
Right.
yes,
online, right? It's just not the same
yeah.
thing, right?
It
So,
is.
yeah.
And I try to give a lot of the stuff online, but I think
Yeah.
people they just like to come in and ask questions and see things and
For
try to
sure they
figure
do.
stuff
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Especially if
so
they know
it
someone
actually
who
works.
has the same issues they do. Like you
Yes. Yeah.
appreciate it differently that
Yeah.
I'm not a celiac. So I can talk about gluten free, but quite frankly,
Yeah.
it's
It's
not
not
gonna
your
Yes.
it doesn't
it's not
change
your
my
thing.
world
Yeah,
either
exactly.
Yes.
way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And it was a big thing for me was the healthy and the gluten free. And I think when they come into the store and I mean we just had a person who she's in her 50s and she just found out she's gluten free and she baked from scratch. So she's like, okay, what do I use? I'm like, okay, cassava flour. She's like, I like rice flour. Okay, mix your cassava flour with the
Okay.
rice flour. So there is that bit apart. That's like when I was in Moncton and I was in Moncton in 2017, I believe it
Right.
was, because my second husband he's French, and that's how I have the name Hebert. And he's always saying he wants to go back home, wants to go back home, and New Brunswick was his home, and we left there, and he basically just left me. I was on my own for 6 months, first time ever, and then I'm such a crazy person. Is I always end up in places where I have no idea how I get there, but I always wanted to do something, and I end up at the Moncton market on Saturdays with my cookies, and I was like the only black person there. I just remember, all I know, I'm just obsessed with doing stuff. And I was in the market, and Saturdays we would do. I'd bring my cookies, and there's all these elderly people, and would ask questions about, because I know that New Brunswick they're 67% obese, and that was
Right.
my biggest thing. Was like, okay, how do you get? I see these elderly people, they're not eating. Their family would bring the food, but they wouldn't cook it. The food would go bad.
Right.
I became a food mentor because of that. I wanted to understand, like in New Brunswick and Moncton, like what was going on, like how can I help? I'm always a person, no matter where I go in my environment, I'm always like, with the skills that I have and the ability that I have, how can I help someone? How can I help release the pressure from them? And then I started this lunch and learn at the French library, and it's Moncton, you have
Always
to
the
speak French.
libraries.
So I started a lunch and learn because I was teaching people, and I have this program that I teach about time management, and it's about priority management and where do you find the time to do this. And then I started the cookies at the market, and I would get up like at 4:30 in the morning. I have to go to my job at 7:30, but I would get up Saturday and make the cookies because I wanted it fresh. And then all the people would come, and there's all of these seniors that are looking for the cookies, even though sometimes I'll probably sell not enough to pay my rent, but I wanted to give them something that they
Right.
really weren't getting. And so then when I left Moncton, I was like, you know what? I'm going to really continue this. That was my defining moment to, start the online and just keep going and going, because I wanted to be, I think the main reason for the online was I was able to ship product to where they couldn't find it.
Right.
That was
I
my
mean, it
So
makes
big
is
more
thing.
sense now. At
Moncton,
least it's tying it
yeah.
together better.
And
Okay.
then
Yeah, yeah.
is Moncton after the book?
Yeah, Moncton is
And
before the book.
Moncton, oh,
Before
before
Yeah,
the
the
book.
Moncton
book?
is before the book.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Moncton is before. That was in 2017 because
Right.
I was just, yeah. And then when I
Oh, I
came back
see it.
to,
So now
yeah,
you're yeah, I get it now. So because you're
yeah,
learning, you're on a learning path, and then you start. So your retail journey really
yes,
starts there, right? Because you start selling and you start realizing
yes,
the kind of the audience that you're after, right? The folks
yes.
that are there. You write the book, and then you start the online store. Does the online store come well after the book,
No,
or
it was
kind
both.
of
It was
okay?
both because I think for me it was like was educating. I wanted to educate people.
Yeah,
I find that a lot of people resonate with me, and so I was doing a lot like really fast. So
yeah.
anything that usually when I put out, it happens really quick, and either I back away from
We're
it and
learning that
delay
from
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're figuring that out pretty fast. Yeah. Yeah. That's coming around very clear.
Yeah, that's very clear. That's awesome.
So,
Okay, so then
so
Okay.
you start the store.
So stores,
yes.
how many? The store's recent though, like a couple
Yeah, so
months.
it's
The
quite
store
recent
is
then.
recent. The store is January 16th. I turned 50. I start the store. But before the
Oh,
store,
so
when I
Wow.
had
we're
my
a month in.
online, yeah,
In
yeah,
Calgary.
in Calgary, the
Okay.
first
Where in
one, we
Calgary?
wanted Kensington. We're in Kensington Village, so we
Okay.
have it in
Okay.
Kensington, and we want to take it across Canada. So I made sure it was a small enough store that I could implement
So how
across
big a
Canada.
store is this? Is it like 1,500 square feet,
It's
2,000
yeah,
square feet?
it's under 9,000. It's about 950 some square feet. Yeah,
Okay.
So it's a small store, but
Yeah,
it's
small
a
store.
small store.
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
sourcing now. So you've learned that sourcing from winners and other retailers probably not the smartest way to do this. So I'm assuming you're buying not legit, but a different method.
Yes, no, we have distributors because
Okay.
that's why I worked full time. So I worked full time because I knew what I wanted to do. Again,
Right.
the planning. So I knew that I have to have my own money. And so what I
Right.
did is I made sure that there was a certain level of salary I needed. I
Right.
could not go below. It has to be higher because I need to allocate money because I
Yeah.
knew I did my research. I knew I have to have minimum $2,000 to buy from the distributor or minimum 500. I
Right.
knew I have to all the memberships that I wanted to join. I knew it's not going to be cheap. So I pre-planned, made sure that all my book sales and all my online sales, and then when I was working full time, that I would put that money towards
Good for you.
getting ready for the store. And so, yeah, we have distributors because the price, I want to make sure that we offer a
Right.
good price to our customers as well as be able to generate profit so we can make things even better for us.
Right.
And so for the store, because I love live music and I love like just the joy of life. So we initiate a customer appreciation where we have the last Saturday of the month. We have live music, live entertainment. It doesn't have to be
Wow.
music, but it's live
That's
entertainment
awesome.
in the store. Yeah, so my store, there's a section. It's kind of like going when you go to like a lounge, there's a section where
Right.
the music. So I made sure that I clear a space where there's a section that we can have like live
Good
entertainment
for you.
and we can show our customer appreciation and have them win like a prize. And so I came up with the 50 because I turned 50 and I'm always something about marketing when it comes to like clicking, like the brain connects. So it's like purchase and win 50, give 50, all that
Right.
stuff. So yeah.
Are you sourcing stuff outside of distributors, like local product? Is there people's
Yes, I
baked
am
goods,
very
or like is it all, or is it all
yes.
packaged?
It's packaged. All of it has to be packaged because I wanted it to be an easy start.
Right.
I didn't want because when I got my business license, my Alberta Health Services, I was not prepared to jump in full time. If I had like investment, I would be jumping full time and have a full blown where we have produce and things and all that
Right.
stuff. But everything has to be packaged, have to be pre-packaged. And then we have mostly Canadians because what I've learned when I went to in Ontario and I went to the CFHA show, there was so many Canadian and gluten-free products I've never even heard of.
Yeah.
You usually just go to the grocery store and that's it. And BC has a lot of Canadian gluten-free suppliers. And so I wanted to bring them all into our store. And so it just became like most of it is Canadian because a
Good for
lot of
you.
the stores they carry American stuff. I
Right.
wanted to support Canadian. I wanted to bring in Canadian. So our stuff is
Mhm.
like 10% non-Canadian. If we can find it in, a Canadian supplier, we bring it in like for non-Canadian stuff.
And what do you find in like, because as you're probably sort of figured out, Calgary leads the country in many things, not necessarily those things. So like, is it like there is a market for this, obviously. I mean, there are
Yes,
celiacs in the country and there's people who are trying to
yes,
get away from gluten. So like you
yes.
have enough.
Yes, we've done our research. Basically, across Canada, people are gluten-free, even if they're not gluten-free, what they're looking for is healthy option because of the
Right.
pandemic. And that's what drove my business was when the
Okay.
pandemic came. I really drive it about being healthy. So much more important for you to be healthy, regardless if you're celiac or gluten-free. And so the option that I offer was about health, being that the foundation is gluten-free because I'm gluten-free. And then it's not just being celiac because you can be a gluten you got bowel issues that you don't have to be a full-blown celiac.
Right.
So it's, we support celiac, we support those who have
Right.
IBS and irritable bowel syndrome or any other unhealthy. And part of what I was doing before is I was a professional chef. I would do personal chef. I would
Right.
do for people who have obese, if they're overweight. A lot of times people want me to talk about weight loss. I don't talk about weight loss. I'm more about count your nutrients versus your calories.
Right.
And so when I take on any weight loss program, it's to do with people that are severely like obese people. And so I would do a personal shopping with them and prepare their meals for like a week and show them what they can do and provide the support for them. And a lot of it too is conversation and coaching about, where they are and how do they feel about their life and where they're going and why is it, they're not where they want to be and then helping them
Right.
achieve that. So I only do the coaching on a request versus I don't advertise it on my website, but at level 50, this is something that we're going to go into is more talk about business for people that are like in their 50s, especially women, and then talk about their health and then go from that stage. Yeah.
God, you're a going concern. Holy shit.
Yeah, you are.
That's a
You
lot of
are
stuff going
moving,
on there.
lady.
Oh my
That's
God.
amazing.
You're making me dizzy. Holy
That's
moly.
amazing.
Wow.
I want to ask you, because you've been a retailer. You've been in retail now for a while, but you've been a store retailer for
Oh
a
my,
month,
yeah.
A
give or
month.
take, right? Like
A month. Yeah.
no, but you had online retail, so you were doing that.
Yeah.
Any surprises? Anything that you had to go back to the library to find out about along the way?
Oh, yes. Okay. So So, before when I was starting the retail, like the brick and mortar, because again, I'm a bit of perfectionist. I don't know if a bit is probably understatement, but I like to know everything, every detail, what's going on, what I should know, what I should not know, all that other stuff. And then I remember watching this lady on YouTube open up her store in Ontario, and she's
Hmm.
talking about all these other things, but they don't really fully tell you everything. But the thing with that is when I did my research, because one of the biggest thing I think when you're gonna start, a lot of people think they need a lot of money. Like the thing is,
Well, you need some
when I
money.
start to, well, no, you need money. Don't get me wrong. You need to start with some money. But the thing is, what you don't know is that you already have the money. It's just how you transfer the money. It's how you
Yeah.
use
Okay.
the money.
Okay.
So that was my biggest thing. So because when I did my research and look at okay, I got distributors. I know how they got the products that I need. What I need is a space. And so it was we wanted it in Kensington because we live close in Kensington. And I was thinking I'm working full time. I can't be traveling an hour to get to the store. It needed to be close to home because my idea was to have people in there full time and then I would be able to go there on the weekend and help. And so looking for a spot, it was really daunting because people think Kensington is like, oh, it's going to be super expensive. And some people kind of dismiss you. One of the things when I was calling for spaces and there was a lot of leases, no phone call, no return call. I would call, email.
Yeah.
These real estate agents, doesn't anyone return people's call? That was the
Not in
part
commercial
where it's
real
like,
estate.
Oh, it
Different
Well,
world.
was, it was,
it's in such high demand, right?
And
That,
it's all
you
connections.
know,
It's all, if you're
yeah, they
not
kind
on the
of,
list of,
yes.
they're not talking to you.
yeah,
They're not talking to you.
No.
It's all connections.
Yeah.
So I made sure that I kind of stalk people that I need to be connected to and then get connected to introduce myself.
Oh,
And then
shocking.
I went to, went to a lot of places. I went to a lot of stuff. I was
Holy
like, you know what?
moly.
Let me take my $20 burger bill and save it up for this fancy restaurant where all my
yeah, yeah,
connections is gonna
yes,
be.
Wow.
And
yeah,
so then I came across another spot and we went and we saw it and the guy was like, yeah, it was great. I had to learn to speak the language
Yeah.
because again, I have this concern because of my skin color, that people are not going to take me seriously. You're going to think I don't have the money.
hmm
And so I had to make sure that I dress appropriately. I speak the language. And I think my passion like shined through because I was so passionate about what I wanted to do.
Don't see that.
Listen, when we meet you at the show, I gotta meet you in the morning because I
I
don't think.
cannot,
Yes,
I cannot do it 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm usually
yeah,
exhausted. You would, oh my God. Yeah. We need first thing in the morning to get us going.
Or
yes.
we need
I
you know
was
who we need Scott's drink,
Yes.
the wake water. We need wake
Oh
water.
my
the wake
Lord.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was yeah. So the idea. So we went. So that was the other thing, and
Interesting.
then trying to get like the business license. That was actually. When they ask you what are you going to start, because you assume a grocery store, but then a grocery store entails so many things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then a specialty food store, but they don't have a gluten
No, we just lost
Oh,
her.
we
free
just
to
lost her. Oh, there
understand
you
a
are.
gluten-free
Yeah.
grocery store because no one has
Right.
ever opened up a gluten-free. So then that was a bit just like what they don't know. They don't understand. So I had to like think very hard about it. And every question says, I'm like, no. Then I have to say yes to something that is a no to get to the other section. And the application itself was just like, okay. And then they had to explain. And then they came back and said, you need all this, this, this. And I'm like, well, no, I had to call someone to say, well, it's prepackaged. The store is already done. I just need the license. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then they ask me again. I have to say this over and over again. It's a gluten-free pantry store. And they're like, what? I'm like, what
It's a
is that?
grocer.
You
It's a
open up
grocer.
the
We don't carry no meat, no produce. It's a grocer. That's it.
That's what I had to learn that. I had to learn and that's why I became a member of the Canadian Grocery to learn. And I was watching a lot of stuff and then they were like, oh, you're opening up oh, that's wonderful. I'm like, yes, okay, thank you. And I had to be very like very nice to help them to be a bit more helpful. But that all worked out. That was the hardest part because filling
We
out the
actually
application.
so I think it's like for us, for Kenny and I, we actually really understand this part. So like being a podcast in retail, we've been doing this like 5 years. And we started looking around to see how we expand. We looked at government sites, we looked at grants. And the funniest thing was we literally had the same conversation you had, but on the podcast side, right? So you kind of go, well, what are we? And so I would answer, oh, we're retail. And they go, well, what do you do in retail? Well, we broadcast in retail. They go, oh, well, no, you don't belong in
Also, your
retail.
radio.
You belong in radio.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I
yeah,
go to the radio and guys and they go, no, but you're not, you're in retail. We're like, no,
yeah.
we're
You're
actually
not even
both.
you're not even both. You're
We're
a
both.
what's
How
a
do we?
podcast? Because that's not radio.
And they said,
Yes,
do you
yeah,
have a professional accreditation? We're like,
For
yeah,
what?
I have 5 years of, we have 300 podcasts. Does that work? Well,
yeah.
you know,
You get it.
and so we
Yeah, you
totally
got
get you
it.
because it's like, what the heck,
Yeah.
man? Like,
Like, how do you
what more do
explain
you
it?
want
And
exactly?
You
Yeah,
can't. You
yeah,
you
can't
yeah, yeah,
because
can't
they got to
explain it. And
catch
it's
up to us.
yeah.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what even when people talk about going for
Yeah.
mentor, I go, where? What mentor? When nobody is doing what I'm doing or about to do, who's gonna be my
Well,
mentor?
I
Yeah.
noticed you're part of the Calgary Food Execs, right?
Oh
So there's a
yes,
group of people there that
they're not doing what I'm doing because when
not exactly
well,
like
Well,
because
you.
the thing is, that's why I joined those
Yeah.
associations to have a little bit of everything. Because for me, the way I want to do business is a little bit innovative because I'm very inclusive in terms of people and things that are happening now and making it real. And so
Right.
for
mhm.
me, who has a book because who's doing a lot. You're doing an online store, you have a cookbook, it's gluten-free, and I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, which is a little tricky because some people will say gluten-free, but they're not gluten-free healthy. I need the healthy stuff. I can't do gluten-free not healthy because of my anemia. So, and I need to be forever young because I'm getting older. So I'm always like,
50 is not old. For the
50's not old.
record,
Yeah.
50 is not old. When you're Kenny old, you're old.
No,
when
even
I'm
then.
Kenny old,
Even
Yeah,
then,
when
it's
you're
not
Kenny
that
old,
old.
you're old. But if you're
Kenny
my
looks
old, which
good.
is 50 as
I'm
well,
a
we're
lot
not
closer
old.
to I'm a lot closer to the next decade than I went to the one I just passed.
Oh,
And I'm past you.
no. So it becomes something like they
Yeah.
weren't the questions that I have, like boxes. Okay, I need my,
Yeah.
they didn't have the budget that I have, Kenny. And I didn't
Yeah.
have the budget that I have, and they couldn't
Yeah.
help me with all the creative stuff. That's why Canva was my savior. It was like, okay, you know what? You don't have it. I'm gonna create it on Canva.
You just do
You
your own
can't.
thing,
This
right?
too much.
The only thing what you
Yeah.
can do with those people, I mean, retail is retail. It really is, right? Whether you're selling Maseratis, gluten-free produce, I don't really care what you're selling. It's really on how you present yourself, what your store is
Yes.
going to look
Yeah.
like, what you want to be when you grow up. And you already at least knew that.
Yes.
You wanted to be
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
destination for gluten-free and
Yeah.
gluten-free healthy, which is
Yeah.
actually more important because gluten-free is not necessarily
No.
complicated, but a lot of shit that's gluten-free, you shouldn't be eating,
No.
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
So really, you want to be gluten-free healthy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Which is probably
That
the
was
most
my thing.
important part, especially now because you've also done some nutrition and things
Yeah.
like that. So I
Yeah.
totally get that. Wow,
Amazing.
that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
And store's doing well. You're
Amazing.
happy. Like
Yeah.
it's a good
Yeah, the
decision
store
so
is doing
far.
really good. So we have our staff, and we are learning as we go.
It's fine.
I do think for myself, I need to be full-time managing the store. I think it's time to transition from my day job
You'll learn
into
that
a
it's really
full-time.
hard to pay someone else to do your thing because it'll
Yeah,
never be the way you want it. It just doesn't. It's really difficult, and it's really hard to pay somebody. I mean,
I think a
I hate
lot
to
of
tell
it
you, you're better off
too.
to pay yourself.
Well, exactly. And I think what it is because we're starting out and it's our first one, and the customer is really innovating us because the customers come
Yeah.
and
But you
they
need to see that.
request.
You need to be the one that has that pulse because you're going to be the one who opens the next door, not the manager. Right?
Exactly. And
That
that's
makes
what it is.
sense.
And when I'm in the store on the weekends,
Yeah,
a lot of people come in, they ask questions. I'm able to help them and
I
ask them,
bet.
okay. So they're very happy with that. And then someone says, "Oh, do you have a YouTube channel?" I'm like, "Oh, I
Not
do, but
yet.
I don't really use it."
Not yet.
But then now I'm thinking I need to do the YouTube channel because I
Absolutely.
used to do a bit of live of Instagram and people just love it and they miss that. So now we'll be doing like a YouTube weekly series where we take the ingredients and say, okay, here's your ingredients. This is what we're making, and
Perfect.
kind of help them and walk them through that.
But
So yeah,
walk me through the store once a week and tell me what's new.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
yeah,
here's the
yeah.
newest
Yeah.
cracker and why is it good for you?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it doesn't have this, it
Yeah.
doesn't have this, it has this. Because I think that's what
Exactly. And
because
what
you got
you
to be
can
it.
and
You're
what
the
you
expert.
can do it. Yeah, exactly. And what you can do with it. Like we have some
Absolutely.
cookies right now. We can say, okay, it's chocolate month. We have chocolate cookies. You can
Perfect.
take these cookies, you can crush it, you can make a
Yeah.
base. You don't have to worry about graham cracker. You can
Right.
use this. So there's lots of things
Or
that
just
I
go
can
dunk them in almond milk and just be happy.
Um,
exactly.
what
Good for you.
okay, so we're kind of like we're in February. This will come out in a couple of weeks. We'll be going to are you coming to CHFA?
Yes, I will
Yeah.
be coming not as an exhibitor, but as
That's a retailer.
A retailer.
yeah, as a retailer, because I want to have the time to go around and
That
visit
makes sense.
everyone.
It's all good.
It's
No, it's
yeah,
totally
yeah,
cool.
No, it's
So
good. We're
so
at the
we're
show.
gonna
We'll see you at the show.
so hopefully
oh,
we can help you
perfect.
shortcut some things too.
Yep,
So because we
perfect.
have a lot of brands that listen to this show. What are you looking
What are you
for?
looking for?
What do you think you want to see out of the show? So if there are vendors listening to this who fit your retail profile, what would they look
Yes.
like, sound like?
Glu- uh, Gluten-free, because one of the thing I'm going to be very specific and clear about this. I'm looking for Canadian gluten-free products that is strictly gluten-free, not made because we have a product that we saw at the gluten-free expo, and their product says gluten-free, but on the label in their ingredients they had to say may contain gluten because they didn't do it in a gluten-free facility.
Certified place.
Certified.
Okay.
So to
Yeah.
me, and I don't understand they have the label. I just felt like they got ripped off, to tell you the truth, because as a person who's stamping your approval, I would not stamp your approval to have gluten-free and then have may contain gluten.
Right.
Because
Because probably
once we
Whole
got
Foods asked for it.
we couldn't use it because we're
Right.
exclusive gluten-free. So
Right.
we didn't even notice until we
Right.
looked at it and go, uh-oh, we got to take this back.
Yeah, we have a problem.
So
Right.
Yeah.
we have a problem. Yeah, it has to be gluten-free, and we're looking mostly for Canadians. So any gluten-free products, we want to get them in the
Well,
store
you should
because
find them at the show.
Yeah.
yeah, oh, I'm excited
You
to
should be
be
there.
just, going around and meeting people because our customers we've opened their eyes to so many things they've never even noticed.
That's
They didn't even
awesome.
know about gluten-free. Yeah,
Good for
yeah.
you. Good for you. Wow.
Awesome.
You.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
I
Yeah,
love it.
pretty impressive.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Yeah. So that's what we're doing in our retail, and our next venture is to open up a cafe, a gluten-free cafe, where we can we
Wow.
want to do, because I love a lot of the cooking that I do, pictures, the cookbooks and everything. I find too a lot of people want meals that are ready. So they're like, "Oh, can you bake it for me?" At one time I used to do every week we have people come and pick up their muffins and their cookies, and I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need to open a cafe. And I love sitting down at a cafe and listening to good music and having, something to eat with friends and family. So our next venture is going to be a cafe, and I actually trademark Snackalicious. The name is trademark. So
Good for
it's
you.
going to be a Snackalicious cafe.
Will it be
Um,
attached to the store, or you're going to open it somewhere else?
no, it's going to be somewhere
Somewhere
else. Yeah, it's going to be somewhere else that we want to open it. And then most of it too is where I want to develop my own mixes as well, which is
Right.
mostly no grain because I'm a high protein, no grain diet person. So we're looking at
You should come
no
to Vancouver a
grain.
couple days early. There's lots of
Yeah,
places in Vancouver that may
I
not be
would
full,
love
but the
to.
ideas, you'll find ideas. And that's what you're probably looking
Yes,
for.
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome, Marsha.
So
Awesome.
That was
that's,
great.
yeah. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Awesome.
very
Thank you.
much. I mean,
Thank you
seriously,
so
it was
much.
great to have
Yeah.
you come. If people
Yeah.
want to
Oh,
find
you're
you,
welcome.
where do they find you?
Where do they find
Oh,
you?
so www.eatforlifebymarsha.com, eatforlifebymarsha.com. I'm all over the internet. If you just type in Eat for Life by Marsha, you'll find me right away. I'm
Perfect.
on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn,
Okay.
Twitter, TikTok. You can
Awesome. You're
Pinterest, you'll
everywhere.
find me. Yes, I'm
Sounds good.
everywhere. Eat for Life by
We
Marsha.com.
love it. We
That's
love
awesome.
it.
Thank
Thanks so
you
much.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks very much for coming
Yeah.
on.
Yes,
Phil,
so
you
thank
stick
you. You
around.
guys too.
Marsha, take care of yourself.
All right.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Marsha.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Phil.
Yes.
I'll wait for Marsha to click
Yeah,
off.
that's right.
It's all good.
There
There
we
you
go.
go. God, she's a going concern. Holy
Whew.
shit. Yeah, I need a rest.
Yeah, I need a nap.
Oh my.
She's amazing though, right? Like
Well, she's
huge
good.
bundle of energy, but
Like energy is definitively not an issue. Holy shit now. It's good though, right? I mean, I don't know.
No, but she's doing something
it's
cool, right?
awesome.
She's
Yeah,
doing
and
something really cool.
You know what? It's it's funny because we both live in cities, like mine probably even more than yours, where we had gluten-free stores, when
Yeah.
I was still in London. I've been gone 7 years. So like we had full bore. Now, whether the products were great at that time or not, it was the category was still developing, 12, 15 years ago. But you're in a city like Calgary, which is very different. Right. So it's pretty cool that she's found a little spot, a little niche. And I think, with her energy and her willingness to learn, I mean, I really don't see much could stop. I don't think anything could stop her anyway. So it wouldn't really matter.
I don't think so.
Like she's just
Yeah.
going full tilt no matter
Yeah,
what.
yeah,
Right?
she is. She
Yeah,
is.
I'd just get out of the way because
Oh my
she's gonna run
goodness.
you over.
Oh my goodness.
That's good though. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like it.
it's hard. I
like
mean,
it.
I don't. Yeah, I mean to be an interesting run. Back to where the white guy in Canada doesn't have a shit ton of problems. It's a whole different world, right? When you've got other things. I like those conversations. Wow, good for her.
We're at a minute, an
So,
hour 10.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening.